Greetings, students, and welcome to another fun-filled day here at
Horror in the Halls.
What's up, kids, and welcome to Horror in the Halls. I'm Bob, aka Mr. Holland.
And I'm Jenny, aka Mrs. Hill.
And we're just two high school teachers talking about the spooky stuff we love. This month's lesson plan has us focusing on strong females, either behind the camera or in front of it. So in this week's lesson, it's game over, man, as we delve into 1986's Aliens. Really, Ripley's a boss, so you couldn't have a strong female month and not talk about Ripley.
Yeah, I love her.
She's the best. This was a last-minute Jenny pick, but I couldn't be more happy because I love Aliens, so it worked out.
Yeah, it was one of those I didn't feel like watching the other one we picked out because it was just dark, and I'm like, I'd rather watch something more upbeat. I feel like that was a good, segue from the last pick we had. So
It's true. Plus, this is kind of iconic.
Yeah.
And Aliens is not as much of a horror film as, say, Alien was. This is more as that science fiction action kind of vibe, but it's still in the same vein. There's still monsters, there's still like suspense, and that sense of dread is still there. So it was a great pick, great movie. Let's get into the deets on it, and we'll go into a little conversation. So, release date, July 18th, 1986. Theatrical runtime was 137 minutes, but the special edition, which you should all watch, is 155 minutes. Directed by none other than James Cameron. You might know them from, The Terminator or Rambo 2 or T2 or those crappy Avatar movies. I hate those movies. People hate me for it, but whatever. But yeah, he's just kind of James Cameron. It was written by James Cameron, David Giler, and Walter Hill. Of course, it's based on Ridley Scott's Alien, or it's not really based on, the characters are based on Ridley Scott's Alien, and designs by H.R. Geiger, because he's the one that designed the actual Alien. And pretty much all of the sets, but he only gets credit for the character in this one, when really all of it comes from them. It was produced by Deborah Ann Gerd, which is his wife at the time, which I think is kind of funny. Gail Ann Hurd. I don't know why I said her name totally backwards and wrong. I was mixing Halloween when I said Deborah. It's Gail Ann Hurd. My bad, y'all. The cinematography, though, was awesome because it's Adrian Biddle, and he's great. He did The Princess Bride, Willow, Thelma and Louise, Judge Dredd. His last movie was V for Vendetta, which I love the most ever. It's one of my favorite movies.
It's a lot of good movies.
Oh, that's only a small amount. He has so many more good movies. I mean, the dude did a really good job. Like The Mummy, The World Is Not Enough. He did Event Horizon, which is stellar. Which, strangely enough, before they cut it out, was connected to Hellraiser, which is very strange. Like the true ending of that movie, they open a puzzle box essentially, and like the Cenobites kill them. It's weird. 101 Dalmatians. He did a lot of like really big kind of movies. One of the Bridget Jones Diary movies, Reign of Fire, which was actually really crazy and good. He's a pretty good cinematographer, but he worked with James Cameron a lot back in the day. The budget for this thing was $18.5 million, which was kind of a lot in 1986.
Sounds like it.
But its box office, I couldn't find the exact number. It's a range everywhere I looked. It says 131 to 183 is the box office. So I'm not sure where they're like, why it's such a huge range. Either way, it made all of its money back plus $100 million.
That's good.
Yeah, that's freaking stellar. It's probably counting re-releases and stuff, I would assume. It's a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 94 for audience, which it's Alien, so of course. 4.1 on Letterboxd. In case you don't know what this is, Aliens is a 1986 science fiction action film written and directed by James Cameron. It's a sequel to 1979's science fiction horror film, Alien, which this one still has horror. And it's the second film in the Alien franchise, set in the far future. Of course, stars Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley, which, fun fact, she actually got nominated for Academy Award for this, which was like one of the first for this genre film ever,
I
which is pretty
mean,
cool.
she did a really good job. So
She was awesome. She was awesome. She's the sole survivor of an alien attack on her ship, which if you've seen Alien, if you've not, turn this off and go watch Alien. I don't care what any other podcast hosts say. Alien is the greatest sci-fi horror movie of all time. It's better than The Thing. You can hate me all you want. I don't care. The Thing is good. Alien is better. So yeah, that's kind of the gist, right? She survived it in the first one. They want to go back. Corporate greed, of course. Like, yeah, let's go save these people. Really, they just want to capture it. She's like, hell no. And that's the whole plot of the movie, essentially.
yeah,
She's going to kill some folk.
Wayland Industries. They're the worst.
Oh, Wayland Yutani over there. Them and the Tyrell Corporation are pretty terrible. Both of those Ridley Scott people. Love that guy. He was great. He's way better than James Cameron, but whatever. This is a great movie, though. So, I mean, really, I think James Cameron is, and I guess if you really talk about him, like, before going in too deep, he has done some of the best sequels, like, ever. Granted, he also did The Terminator, but T2 is, like, awesome. Like, if you went down and said, like, movies that were better than the original or as good as the original, because most sequels are not, James Cameron is pretty known for doing movies that are as good as the original.
Okay.
Like, in technicality, like, how much it made and how well it did and how it's received, Aliens made more than Alien. Like, he did a lot more with Aliens because he branched out the genre from just horror to more horror, science fiction, fantasy, action, all that jazz. Like, so it kind of had a wider range than Alien did. And Rambo 2 is awesome. T2, awesome. Like, he killed it. Good job, James
It's been
Cameron.
a million years since I've seen any of those movies. The only ones that I could vouch for is Alien and Aliens.
Well, you should go watch The Terminator and Terminator 2 because they're also great. And they have Arnold in them, so you can't go wrong.
Okay.
I like Arnold. He's my hero. Because I think he's really funny. I'd like to meet him one day.
I saw him filling a pothole the other day.
Yeah, just for random, no reason. Like, go out there and fix a hole. I'm like, all right, man.
Johnny was like, look, it's Arnold filling a pothole. And I was like, is that really him? He was like, yeah. I was like, okay.
Yeah. It's weird.
Okay.
I saw that too. I know, it's like you were like the governor of that whole state, and now you're like, no one will come fix my pothole. I'll just do it myself. Okay, Arnold.
He's like, whatever.
You're stupid rich. You could have just paid people to do it, but no, I'm gonna do this on.
He's like,
social
I want to
media.
do it. I'm gonna do it myself.
Hey, he did. You cannot fault him for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's get to the cast real quick. Sigourney Weaver is Ellen Ripley. She's the sole survivor from Alien. Her and her cat, Mr. Bonesy. Michael Biehn.
Jonesy.
You're right. I said Bonesy, didn't I? My bad. Sorry. I knew you were going to about the stupid cat. Dumb cat. Whatever.
It's not dumb. It's actually the smartest person in the whole freaking first movie.
Pretty much, yeah. He knows what's up.
Right?
Anyway. Jeez.
Bonesy.
I know.
I'm never going to let you live that down.
I was
ever.
close. Bonesy, it's close. Shut up, dude, whatever. Look, man, the cat is only in this movie for like 3 seconds, dog. I forgot.
But I loved Jonesy in the first one. That's the only reason why. And I play that game. What's it called? Legendary. I love that game. And Jonesy's like one of the best cards you can get. So I'm always excited about Jonesy.
Ridiculous. Anyway. Okay. Michael Biehn is Corporate Dwayne Hicks. Love that guy. Also in T2. Paul Reiser, who sucks in this movie, as Carter Burke. Lance Henriksen. Love Lance Henriksen as Bishop. Another fun little fact for this one. If this movie didn't work out, he was going to quit acting. So I'm really glad it was successful because Lance Henriksen is an amazing actor.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he said apparently he made a promise to himself because he had done a bunch of like movies that didn't work out before this, that if this role didn't work, he was going to quit acting. Which I'm really glad it worked. Carrie Henn is Newt, the young girl in the colony, LV-426. Bill Paxton, R.I.P., is Hudson. Probably the best part of this movie for real. He's the comic relief. I think he makes it great.
Yes, him and Vasquez, I think,
are
bring
great.
You joy.
You're great.
Yeah.
William Hope is Gorman, He says he's listed as the inexperienced commanding officer. That is an understatement. My dude has a whole panic attack in this movie.
Right. Gets knocked out by boxes.
Yeah, I know. These dudes just fought aliens. You're like, oh god, I got a concussion from boxes. Lame. Rico Ross is Frost. Al Matthews is Alpone. He's pretty cool. Like their sergeant. Fun fact about him: he is the first actual African American to be like field promoted to a sergeant based solely on merit in Vietnam War. Like he's legit Vietnam vet, and he was a legit sergeant, but he got like field promotion based solely on his merit. Like he earned it without being like, oh, I've been doing this for a long time. It was like, no, you're a badass. You get to be a sergeant.
That's
He was
cool.
the first one ever during Vietnam. That's pretty cool. He was also like a singer or something, apparently. And then, of course, you got Vasquez. She's like the best. Jeanette Goldstein. Drake, also awesome. Mark Ralston. Spunkmeyer. It's Daniel Cash. Crow is Tip Tipping. That's a terrible name. Oh, that's not your real name. Tip Tipping. Wazerowski is Trevor Steadman. Corporal Dietrich, which was Cynthia Dale Scott. Farrow. Colette Hiller. Let's see. Paul Maxwell as Van Leeuwen. Barbara Coles as the cocoon colonist. You got all kinds of people in here. Carl Trop and Eddie Powell portray alien warriors. Those dudes are awesome. So all the aliens you see that are people was Carl Troop and Eddie Powell. They just do it over and over again. Then, of course, if you watch the extended one, there's a lot more people. You got Newt's mom and dad or brother, which is Jay Benedict, Holly Dijon. Her brother, Christopher, plays her brother, Timothy. So it's actually her brother, which is kind of funny. That's why they're mean to each other legitimately. I like that. And I think, who was it? Yeah. Sigourney Weaver's actual mom, which is pretty cool, is her daughter in the extended version.
Okay.
So that photo you see of her daughter is really her mom, which I think is kind of interesting, but kind of cool, actually. So, yeah. Anyway.
So you cast.
It's a great cast. It's a great movie, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was laughing because I'm like, Michael Biehn makes a whole career out of like helping out badass women. He was in Terminator with Sarah Connor. He's the person John Connor sent back to save his mom. Really save himself. He didn't give a shit about his mom, but he was like, don't let me die. I had to be born. I'm John Connor. But he's the one that fights the Terminator in the first movie. I think that's why he got cast in this movie because, you know, he was like, hey, dog, come do this with me. Same with Bill Paxton. I'm pretty sure Bill Paxton is in Terminator too. Terminator as well. He's one of the punks at the beginning.
Yeah, and then Vasquez and
they're in T2.
Hudson. Well, they're in what is that? Near Dark.
Yep.
Together.
I'm pretty sure Vasquez, she plays John Connor's adopted mother in T2. I'm almost positive it's her.
I didn't know that.
Now that I said that out loud, I'm gonna double check before I make myself look like an idiot. But I'm almost fully positive that that's her.
I mean, you did call Jonesy Bonesy, so
you know what? It's a cat. You shut up. Cats don't even matter.
Cats do matter.
Cats are no, they don't.
Yes, they do. Mr. Ryan, where's he?
Yeah, I was right. Yeah, she plays. She's also the T-1000. So he like disguises himself as her. But yeah, okay. I knew I was right. Whatever. Apparently, she's also in Titanic as a random Irish mother. That's right.
Oh, that's sad because I know exactly who that is. That's the one that like lays down with her children to drown to death.
Yep.
That's great.
It's because James Cameron's like, look, man, I'm gonna bring you guys with me on everything. Just come on, you do everything. You're all my bros.
My bros. Oh, they were a good group.
Something funny about her I just read on her Wikipedia is apparently she's no longer an actor. She owns a store called Jeanette Brawls. It's a large cut brawl specialist known for its slogan, "The alphabet starts at D."
Oh my gosh, I love it.
That's funny. Like, we don't make small cut bras, sorry. She's like 63 years old. That's crazy.
Well, but that is kind of like nice because it's for the big breasted women out there who can walk into a store and can't get anything or have to spend $60 to $80 on a decent bra. That's just crap.
Yeah, I agree.
It sucks. So stupid. Bras are dumb.
Everyone should love the people whose bra size started D, I guess. I don't know. It's awesome for her. I think that's funny that you went from being an actor in all these movies and now you just sell bras. The alphabet starts
I mean,
at D, my friend.
it's great.
That's funny.
I need to look that up. I need to look that up.
Yeah, they're in Melrose Avenue in California. They started it, looks like, a couple years ago, 2009, I think. That's cool. That's funny. Little fun fact about, Vasquez. I like that, which is like, that's one of my favorite lines, too. You ever been mistaken for a man? She's like, no, of you.
I know
Rodney
I
Hudson.
put that in there. That's my favorite line. One of my favorite lines of the movie.
I mean, he has all the good quotable lines in this movie, though.
Oh yeah,
Like
of course he
all of
does.
them. And I think I'm glad they added back in, like, because apparently if you watch the theatrical, some of his lines get cut out. Like when he's talking about their weapons and stuff, which is great. When he's like, we got nukes, knives, and sharp sticks. And I'm like, that's great. That whole line was funny. His whole interaction. He's just a good actor. Miss him. Bill Paxton should have been
Yeah,
stuff
he
all the
was.
time.
Yeah, I know. He played any movie I seen him in. I liked him in. So
I think the first movie I ever saw him in was Weird Science. He was Chet.
yeah, Chet.
Fucking Chet turned into a big pile of crap. It's great.
That's what he gets.
100%. Jerk. He was the worst brother ever.
I know.
Oh, man. But yeah, there's so much to say about this movie, guys. So if you've not seen Alien and then Aliens, I highly recommend you get out there and watch these movies. Like, highly recommend. And it was funny because, like, James Cameron had such a hard time making this movie because he'd only ever made commercials and The Terminator before this, right? So when he went to Pinewood Studios, I think it's Pinewood, in Britain to make part two, the film crew that worked there, they're like, we're like in America, you have to like hire people through the unions and stuff. These people came with the studio, they worked there, but they were super loyal to Ridley Scott and essentially hated James Cameron and didn't want to work for him. Like to the point where he tried to set up a viewing of the Terminator so they could see that he knew what he was doing, and they wouldn't even come. They were like, nah. Apparently it was like a horrible experience. Like even so much that like Bill Paxton and Michael Biehn both commented on it in the commentary about their work attitude. Like they would quit in the midday for tea or like leave early. So like their idea over there, and of course these Americans were like, whatever, lazy. Really, it was probably better. They were like, no, this is what we do. We're not staying here for 12 hours a day. We're leaving when our shifts are over. Because it took longer to film than what it would have taken in America. Like, it was so bad that apparently James Cameron said that his only saving grace was that when I walk out of here, I never have to come back here, and all of you bastards will still be here. And was like, he's never gone back to that studio ever.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was apparently really terrible, which I think is hilarious a little bit. I made a note about it. Hold on. There's so many things where it was just like, they don't like you. They really hated him.
I mean, okay, but I don't know. That's just weird to me.
Why?
Is it because they feel like he didn't know like they legit didn't think he knew what he was doing, or I don't understand.
Yeah, it was a little bit that, and they were just completely loyal. Apparently, they were like hostile to both of them. That's what it says here. It says there were a lot of animosity on the set. The British crew was openly hostile to both James Cameron and Gale Anne Hurd. In their eyes, Cameron was a nobody who had not made a decent film yet, as they hadn't seen The Terminator because it came out in 1984, but that was 2 years earlier. What the hell were we all doing? And they openly mocked Hurd by claiming she only got to be producer because she was married to Cameron, and they wouldn't take orders from a woman. Cameron and Hurd, in turn, despised the crew's lazy, insolent, and arrogant behavior. One of their few allies among them was the production designer, Peter Lamont, which apparently James Cameron worked with him multiple times. Yeah, but he basically said, after the long and difficult shoot, Cameron addressed the crew by saying that one thing kept him going through it all, the certain knowledge that one day I would drive out of Pinewood and never come back, and that you sorry bastards would still be here. Which is crazy. But apparently he liked Lamont a lot because he hired him for True Lies and then brought him out of retirement to work on Titanic. But yeah, apparently they had a hard time because they were super loyal to Ridley Scott, and they thought that he had no business taking on such a big movie.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool, really, because it's one of those weird things, like, cause you don't think about this movie being like such a big deal. But I think their issue with it was his issue was, like I said, and like Bill Paxton and Michael Biehn both commented on it. Like the crew would legit stop in the middle of crucial scenes for tea time. Like they took that every day. Like, no, it's tea time. They would just stop working, or they would just leave early to go to the pub. I'm like, yeah, we're done for the day. And like, what? We got 5 more hours of shooting. No, we don't. We're done. Like they would just leave. So I'm not sure if Ridley Scott like was just better at dealing with that, or he just planned around it. I think there was a kind of a case of James Cameron wasn't really prepared for it, and then he also wasn't like really established because he had not done. I mean, the only things he did before these were he did Exogenesis, which was a short film that he co-directed, and then he did Piranha 2: The Spawning. It's not good in 1982. Terminator 1984, which granted, Terminator is stellar. He wrote that with Gillian Hurd, but they'd never seen it. And then he did Rambo: First Blood Part 2, but he just wrote that. He didn't direct that. That was co-written with Sylvester Stallone, which I don't know why they did that, but
Sylvester Stallone.
I know, right? So in their mind, he had no business touching this movie.
I guess that makes sense if he didn't have a long credit.
Plus, he's American.
Like, movies. Yeah, that too.
Yeah, and like Ridley Scott he's from there, so they knew him.
Yeah.
So they were like, yeah, get out of our face, American. But really, though, like, really, like, Alien was only Ridley Scott's second movie, so it wasn't like it was like he had a ton of experience either. I think Alien was such a big deal. No one wanted to touch it, I guess. I don't know.
I don't love Alien, but I think it's because it's so slow at the beginning and then it like speeds up or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a great movie, like visually, and the music and all that kind of stuff is really good. But like, I like Aliens better because I feel like it's just constant. Because that's what I told Johnny last night when I've seen this movie a bunch, but like, just watching it again, I'm like, it doesn't feel like you're sitting there for that long when you're watching it. Like I've never realized how long it was because it doesn't feel like I'm sitting there that long because it's just always something going on. So
it goes fast, and then you're like, "Oh dang!"
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like last night, I was watching. I was like, "Oh crap, I gotta go to bed, dude." Like when it was over, I'm like, "It's like almost midnight." I felt like this movie started like 10 minutes ago because it's fast paced, right? And Alien is more of that. Like has more of a thriller as opposed to just like terror, horror, like in your face all the time. Whereas this one is more like, let's go, boom, 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 boom. And it has the monsters, it has the fear factor, it has the horror, but not like Alien did, where Alien was like Alien was supposed to be the space version of Jaws, essentially. Like you were supposed to be afraid, like, oh my gosh, I feel this terror. It's why you never see the monster, and for budget reasons. But you hardly never see it. You only catch glimpses, right? It is that horror kind of trope, where you just kind of, it's there, but you don't know, you missed it, a corner of your eye kind of situation. Whereas this one is like up front in your face, here we are.
Yeah.
Here's a 15-meter tall queen coming at you.
Yeah, she was pretty cool.
She was awesome. That was a cool effect. I mean, if you look at it now, some of the parts looked kind of silly when I was watching it last night, like how her hands are all weird looking in comparison to the other ones, but it's also a giant puppet, so I really can't say much about it. It was really cool. I don't have a lot of negative to say about that cool queen. I liked her headdress, which was pretty neat.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
And I also love how this movie expanded more of the world, like, because luckily Alien was so successful that we were allowed to see more of the world. And of course, this one is the most successful one of all of them, I'm pretty sure commercially, but it had a great cast. It has, like you said, it's fast paced. It'll let you going. You're like, man, this is great. And he did a good job. Like, regardless of what the crew at the time thought, some of his decisions were really smart. Like, this movie was shot out of sequence, which a lot of movies are, but like the cool part is like, one of the first scenes when you first meet the Marines, which is early in the movie, they filmed that last. So that's why it seems like all those actors had really been together for a long time, because they had, like, that was the last shot they filmed, was those opening credits of introducing the Marines. So it made the camaraderie seem real. That was really smart, which I think was, that's any film directors, it's what you should do, but that was genius, really, because it made it seem like they were really going to have been together forever, which was cool.
You mean the one where they're like standing there getting debriefed on like what was going on?
Yeah, like when you first meet them, kind of, and they're just kind of talking to each other and joking around because they really had been around
Okay.
together the whole time.
Yeah, I really liked the camaraderie between all of them. I thought that was really good. It was, and the way they treated Gorman was funny because he was so worthless.
I know, right?
Like, oh gosh, like he deserved to be treated like that though, because he was so arrogant about everything. Like he was just so much better. But it was like you got this job not based on like
Anything.
anything at all. You just got it. Like I don't
Yeah.
like it would have been better off to have one of the other ones that have been through it.
Like Al Pone should have
Like
been in charge.
yeah, Alpine should have been in charge, and none of that would have happened. Really, like some of it would have, but like not all of it. Like,
No.
oh
He
my
was like,
god,
I told him to back out. No, you didn't. You were like, take your ammo.
yeah, he just sat there and did nothing, and she's like, "What are you doing?" Like stupid. I
I like how
hated
like they finally
Gorman.
were like, even they listened to her over him, which was kind of interesting. Now
Well,
there
because
was,
she took action and saved the ones that were left.
yeah, she was like, I'm going to
So
do what we need to do.
she was like, "Just get out of my way. You're the worst."
Yeah.
And Burke's like, "Glad you're changed, Gorman." I'm like, shut up, Bert. No one
I
likes you
know.
anyway.
Dude, I would have shot him in the face. Oh my God. We were saying that, like, that fucking scene. Oh my good Lord. If you've seen this movie, when he locks them in the room with the face
Yes.
huggers, and they're like, "You're dead, man. You're dead." And they're like, No, he has to go back. No, I'd have blasted him right there. Newt, close your eyes. Like, he's dead. This dude's dead. He got what he deserved. I'm glad he got his face punched out by the inside mouth of an alien because he needed it.
Right?
The
Freaking
alien
jerk.
made
I was
sweet
so
love to his head.
pissed.
He sucked.
He was the worst. What's funny is last night, it's like you know how like you've seen a movie a bunch of times, but like every time you catch something else. Well, the funny thing is the very first thing you hear him say is, "I'm really an okay guy." That's
Yeah,
what he says
promise.
in the very beginning. And I'm like, "What?"
Because he's like,
That's
I
how
work for
you
the
should.
corporation, but really I'm okay guy. Like, no, you're not. You're a corporate
No,
stooge.
you're worthless, and then you let her get freaking destroyed in that court hearing about the previous ship, and like because they were mad that she blew up like an expensive ship.
The alien is what they were mad about.
Yeah.
So this whole thing, like, oh, you blew up the cargo. Like, yeah, it was trying to kill everybody. Of course I blew up the cargo. What did you want me to do? You
It was gonna
horrid
kill
human
you too,
being.
you idiots.
Yeah, all of you.
Like
Stupid.
y'all think y'all are gonna tame it or something, but you're not.
Yeah, no.
Like
Dumb.
what? Oh
No. There's so
no.
many cool, like, normally I go through and go all the fun facts, and I was like, there's so many cool things about this movie. They're pretty much known at this point. Like the knife trick scene, apparently it was supposed to just be Lance Henderson doing it by himself, but he said it'd have more weight if they had someone else in it. And James Cameron agreed, right, to put Hudson's hand on top, but nobody told Bill Paxton.
That's funny.
So in that scene when he's like freaking out, it's
He's like
because
yelling.
it's legit, yeah. And then apparently, it was great. After shooting it the first day, they all went out and got drunk and had to do a reshoot. So the second time, he actually cuts Bill Paxton's pinky. He nicks it with the knife. But they're really doing that. They just speed it up. So apparently Lance Henderson's really like, "Da-da-da-da-da-da." But yeah, no one told him the first time. So he was like,
That's that's actually really good
it's great.
to not tell him.
It's pretty great.
And also scary at the same time.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, like, there's a lot of cool things that happened to Lance Hendrickson or he did in this movie. I love him so much, from Pumpkinhead to almost everything he's ever done. Because apparently he also wanted to wear double pupil contact lenses for a scene where he's
Hmm.
working in the lab, right, with a microscope to make it look like his face was like, I don't know, different. He gives this scary look, but like James Cameron was like, nah, man, because you look scarier than the aliens. Like, because he has that commanding force anyway, right? His face looks at you and you're just like, okay, my
Yeah.
bad, man. But apparently, when he had these double eye contacts in, it made him look like really creepy. And they were like, no, take him out. Let's do something else. He also got food poisoning whenever his character is dying because that was a weird milk and yogurt. All the white stuff was milk and yogurt. And
Ew.
it had been sitting out all day to prepare for the shoot. So when his android character dies, He ended up getting food poisoning from that scene, but he killed it.
He
Yeah, it
did.
was.
But oh my gosh, I didn't know that's what that was.
Yeah.
Ugh, that's terrible.
And it had been sitting around under the hot studio lights, like so. Basically, the bacteria just grew in it. So yeah, it started to smell. It said it started to smell so bad after 3 days of filming that most of the crew members got hesitant to go near Hendrickson. He apparently endured the smell and never complained even once.
Gosh, that's terrible. No way. Mm-mm.
Which is
Nope.
interesting. I'm reading this now. Apparently, if this was the same crew, they didn't use milk on purpose in Alien. They must have did it on purpose because they didn't like them. Because it says the crew of the first Alien, which was most of the same people, did not use milk for Ash's death scene because they knew the milk would go bad under the hot lights. Interesting.
See, that's kind of shitty though, because just because you're mad about the director doesn't mean you should be shitty to all the rest of the actors.
Exactly. And like I said, I'm speculating, but I think
I know, but but they knew it would go bad.
Because like according to what I've been reading into, a lot of this was the same cast or the same crew rather. So it's like you jerks knew that was going to go sour, shitheads. But no, I think honestly, I mean, whereas Ridley Scott, I don't think he would have been, because this movie, Ridley Scott focused more on the horror. He focused more on the alien and everybody's interaction. James Cameron approached this with wanting to focus on Ripley, which was cool. Like, so much to the point where he let Sigourney Weaver read it, and she had a bunch of notes. And he took apparently all of her notes were more about how Ripley would respond, and he tried to incorporate as much of that as possible into her character. Mm-hmm. He says in some of the things he couldn't give her everything she asked for because some of it was a little, I think Ripley would do this, but like the story needed her to do something else. But for the most stuff, he really took what the actress who was the character said into account for what he did, which I think is kind of cool for a director, especially one that's, I guess now you're like, oh my God, it's James Cameron, you know, but back then he was like, no, okay. Because like, she is Ripley, you know what I mean? Like regardless of,
yeah.
And it wasn't like he wrote that character, which I think is cool that he had that kind of presence of mind to look at that and say, okay, look, I'm taking a character that was already created by somebody else. You know this character. You are this character. And let her have her own look, kind of say. And obviously it worked out. I mean, she was the first person from this genre to ever get nominated for an Academy Award. So I think that's pretty impressive, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I like the way she was written. She was
written to be strong.
And she made a really good comeback from the beginning, because the beginning it almost looked like she was having a lot of panic attacks or like nightmares, and which I mean I would have too, because that's crazy.
Yeah,
but like just kind of accepting the fact that she was going to be who she was, like demoted, and like just because they just really brought her down when they demoted her with all that. Like she worked really hard to become that. I don't know. Was it a pilot, I guess, or was it?
She was she was like a flight lieutenant or something.
Yeah,
she was something like that. I'm not exactly sure.
But they like really demoted her down to like nothing, so she just worked on a loader a lot, which actually came in handy. But like she went from that to just saving as many people as she could, and like just becoming a badass like
pretty
she
much
should have been.
Everybody. She's like, I saved all of you. You're welcome, jerks.
I mean, she even tried to save Burke at one point, which she shouldn't have, because he's a freaking douche. So.
No. Yeah, she was. Let's see. She was introduced in Alien as a warrant officer aboard the Nostromo. Let's see. What's a warrant officer? Sometimes classified as the most junior of a commissioned officer. So she was like essentially a low-level officer on the ship. But I'm not sure if like it was technically like a Navy kind of deal. Like the Nostromo, I'm not sure what kind of ship that was. She was some kind of officer. So not only was she demoted, but she was, like you said, essentially fired. Like, you work as a loader now. That's all you get to do. But it came into effect because, honestly, that's the best scene in the movie. That's one of the most, she's like got so much praise for being like, get away from her, you bitch. And then she's just fighting that really slow motion mover. Whatever.
Yeah. So whatever.
It's kind of ridiculous.
It is. I like that scene a lot, and I like the scene with the two face huggers being locked in the room with her and Newt. I think those are the two real standout scenes to me.
They're great. She does a good job there.
And the hive scene where she goes back into the hive.
Yeah.
And like faces the queen head on. That's pretty cool.
That was cool. It was cool to see too, though. Like that scene, like in the first one, the alien is because there's one of them. It's just there to kill and put a face hugger on people.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, you got to see that they were kind of intelligent, right? Like,
yeah,
it wasn't just instinct. Because like when she shoots that flamethrower over the eggs and the queen sees it, and then she like makes a sound, and those drones back down those hallways. So you see that she is like recognizing, okay, like she's trying to deal with her. I'll let you go. Don't kill the eggs, right? Because they don't come after her until she roasts them anyway. As the pod
Yeah.
opens, and of course, like, you know, it's speculative. Did the queen do it to try to like double cross her? Was it going to happen anyway? Was it a proximity thing? But she opens, and then she just roasts them, and then she's like, "Rah!" And then, you know. But then you also
Yeah.
see the queen having like vengeance, like you killed all my eggs.
Yeah.
Because then she
When she was
focuses.
like doing like a freaking rocket launcher at her little tube that was connected, like her
Yeah.
little, like an umbilical
Her
cord
egg sac
almost.
looking thing, yeah.
Yeah. Because you could see it. It was moving. I was like, oh, that's so gross. It's like dropping
Yeah.
eggs. And I'm like, eh.
It's like a bug, man.
Snake. I know.
I just liked how they showed, I don't know, some kind of sentience to those things. Because, like, really, if you know, you pay attention, she focused on Newt after that, not on Ripley. Like, she was like, you killed my kids, I'm going to kill yours.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, blood for blood, eye for an eye. And then Ripley's like, nah, we're going to battle right now.
Even as dumb as Hudson is, he was like, when she said that it was that part where, oh shoot, I can't remember what it was exactly, but he was like, what do you mean they did this? They're bugs. And
Yeah.
she was like, no, like they figured it out. And he's like, what do you mean they figured it out? Like,
Oh, when they're in that hallway, yeah, with the guns,
yeah.
like they got around. What do you mean, man? Like, yeah, you know, a lot of his lines are improvised. Like when they compare what he says to the shooting script, like all the stuff about their weapons, all the game over man, the express elevator to hell, none of that's in the shooting script. He just kind of says it, and they're like,
Oh,
"Yeah, we
well,
like this.
I'm
We're
glad
keeping
they
it."
kept it
Yeah, because it's
in
great.
because he's just the most ridiculous one, and he's always
Yeah.
getting in he's like the little kid of the group because Apon's always like, Hudson, come here, come here, like
here now. Like you're about to get in
shut up.
trouble.
He was like, "When we fetch your slippers for you," and he's like, "Oh, would you, Sarge? That would be so."
It's forced
And
cold.
like, he was like, "Look into my eye." I love that. The whole their dynamic was funny.
It was great. Like I said, I think that was a smart choice to film all that last because they had spent so long together, right? Like you got to know one another.
Yeah.
Another cool behind the scenes thing, apparently every time a character was going to die, Sigourney Weaver would bring them like a bouquet of flowers before filming began. And then when Paul Reiser was going to die, she gave him a handful of dead blossoms. Like, you suck. Here's your fake flowers. Fuck out of here.
It's funny. Oh.
Sigourney Weaver's the stuff. Another fun fact. Apparently the Alien nest set, they did not tear it down and they used it for Batman.
Huh.
That's Axis Chemicals at Batman.
Okay.
So it's the exact same set. Like apparently all the alien stuff was still there when they showed up. They had to clean it out. Like they didn't even like the crew was like, "No, we're good. We're not even tearing it down." So all like the eggs and like all that like biomechanical stuff on the walls was all still there. They had to go clean it all out to use it for the Joker scenes in 1989's Batman.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of cool little nods in this one. Like, you know, you said you haven't seen Alien for a long. Ripley tries to use this grappling gun at the end of Alien, and it gets stuck in the door. But like when they recreated the pod she's in, it's still there, so you get to actually see it, which I thought was kind of a cool little nod because they had to recreate all that. Like that ship you find Ripley in, they couldn't find any of the models. They couldn't find any of the sets they built for it or anything. They had to recreate all of it from watching Alien. So the crew like rewatched Alien and then rebuilt it from stills. But they put little nods in there to the first one, and that was pretty cool.
That's interesting. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I like it. There's a lot of cool things on this because, like, you know, like the Fox execs when they saw the early cut, they complained. They looked like all their money had been spent on sets rather than special effects, and then she had to tell them that those were actually miniatures and optical effects, and they were like shocked that it was actually effects and not all sets. So the guys were like, "We fooled them." and they were excited. So it was pretty cool. Also, the timing of this movie is spot on. Like, you know, the scene when they're dropping down, Al Capone says we have 10 seconds to leave. It's legitimately 10 seconds. And in both versions of the movie, when that 15-minute countdown starts, when she goes in the elevator, there's only 15 minutes left of the movie. The movie ends in 15 minutes. Like, it blows up in 15 minutes. It's never like you have 5 minutes and then really it's an hour later and they still have 5 minutes. You know, a lot of movies do. Like, countdown. I'm like, this has been going on for 45 minutes. That's a 5-second countdown. Nope, it's 15 minutes. When they said when that thing says 15 minutes, and 15 minutes later, that white light flashes across their face, everything blows up.
That's cool. I like that they did that. I didn't even think about it because it goes by so fast you don't even realize it. That whole scene was really cool with her standing on like that outside, like almost like a balcony type thing.
Yeah, and
And
all the
it's got
stuff's
the
falling.
elevators and like everything's blowing up and like there's like almost like lightning or electricity or whatever it is, and like just the atmosphere around it, and then the queen comes out of the elevator and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, you done effed up, hey Ron.
I was like, oh god, there she is. She's getting closer.
She was too like the model was too big for the elevator. They had to cut the whole back off.
I guess so. It was really big.
Like the tail and the whole back. Like they had to and apparently open up the whole back of the elevator and they had to fill it with smoke and effects and stuff so you couldn't tell where it was. But yeah, it was just too big of a puppet, which is
That's
nuts.
cool that was a puppet.
Yep. I like that.
Because the rest of them weren't puppets. They were just costumes, weren't they?
Some of them are just falling rubber things. But yeah, the ones you see moving are dudes in costumes.
That's what I thought, yeah. Like the ones that like you legitimately see.
It was the same thing in the first movie. The first movie was like a 7-foot tall dude inside a costume.
Yeah, I saw that. I was looking because I looked back at the cast and to see something. I can't remember. I was looking, and then I saw.
Yeah, it's
the guy that they had in the suit
for the queen. It was like 16 operators because it's not like all puppet. Some of it is like robotics, like the face and head and stuff, but they're all controlling it. It was all controlled by people. Apparently it had, let's see, yeah, inside the body, there were 2 puppeteers that actually let it move, but it took 16 people to fully control the whole thing.
That's a lot.
Yeah, apparently it was so convincing. That's what got Steven Spielberg to hire Stan Winston for Jurassic Park.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool because, I mean, Stan Winston, he's the G. He did all the effects for this, which is awesome.
The effects were really good.
Yeah, his school's great. They do all the good stuff. No, I mean, there's so many things.
I have a lot to say when we get to the rubric about the sounds and the sets and stuff.
There's a lot to get into, man. It's great. There's so many good things in this, like so many iconic things that are still like the M41A pulse rifles. People love those. It's one of the most iconic weapons of any movie franchise ever. The power loader, super awesome and iconic.
They're state of the badass art.
Heck yeah. The ships look great. The APC is awesome. That was an actual tow truck from Heathrow, apparently, that was so heavy. Even after stripping it down, they had to like reinforce all the floor so it could drive. But that was a real like tow truck for like airplanes.
Okay.
But it looked awesome. It looked really cool. So yeah, they just did a lot of really cool things to bring this movie to life. And it was really impressive, I think, to take what Ridley Scott and H.R. Geiger kind of came up with for Alien and fully expand it and to see like what the whole colony would look like, you know, because in the first one, like, you know who H.R. Geiger is?
I know the name, but I'm not like...
He's like an artist. He kind of was one of the founding fathers of the biomechanical look. He designed the Alien for the first movie.
Okay.
Like the whole design. He does the Alien. He does the derelict ship when they see inside the ship where the alien's from. Mm-hmm. All of that comes from him, essentially. So they took like a lot of his inspiration from that to do like that resin wax around all how the shapes and how things look. All that is a lot of H.R. Geiger. So to take those inspirations and the stuff Ridley Scott do and really expand it to the point where you made this, honestly, at this point, it's like it had such a cultural impact, right? If you say Alien, people immediately know what you're talking about, right? Like if you say, oh, we're talking about the movie Aliens, the xenomorph immediately comes to mind. There's no, oh, which alien? No, almost everyone knows, unless they're kids. But if you're our age ish, people know. You know what I mean? So it has such a cultural impact on horror, on science fiction, on heck, and for this one, action movies. Like, it hit all of it, right? So it was such a good installment in the franchise. So yeah, it was just a great pick. I'm glad we were able to talk about it this week.
Yeah. I thoroughly enjoy sitting down and watching it every time. So
yeah, it's classic. All right, you want to add anything before we get to the rubric?
no.
All right, let's get to it. So the literary element, the script, story development, dialogue, and character development.
I thought it was written really well. I really liked Ripley's development over even just from Alien to Aliens. I thought, like, just from the beginning of the movie to the end, she shows so much strength and like fortitude to get through. Because I mean, we all know she's suffering from like PTSD from the first movie because like she lost her entire crew and she's like just having those nightmares and like just trying to get through day to day. And then at the end, it's like she didn't forgot all about it. She's just ready to kill everything. She's like, no, you're gonna die because you're killing everything I care about. I'm gonna kill you. So
that would be a harrowing experience. Like,
yeah,
you're in space, but think about this. Like, not only because there's no really indication that people even that there is such thing as aliens, right? Yet, right? We're in space, but no one's encountered any other alien lives. The Marines kind of make it seem like, oh, it's a bug hunt. Like maybe they've encountered something. Like, it's kind of weird. They don't really go into it. But in the first one, there's no real indication that they have any idea, right? This is an unknown vessel to them.
Yeah.
And then to survive all that, you're right. And then, of course, you get like, not even to mention the fact, like with her distrust for androids that she talks about in this, because, you know, their android in the first one, the company was like, nah, keep it alive. This thing is like an acid blood murder machine, and you want to keep it alive? What?
Right.
Its only goal is to make more of it.
Mm-hmm.
If one queen came to Earth, that'd be it.
Right.
That'd be it.
We would be so dead.
Yeah.
All of us.
That's it. What are you going to do? You can't fight it. It literally bleeds acid. That's it. And it has a freaking shell. The ones on their planet are even tougher. It's crazy. But I've read the comics and stuff, so I know way too much about this world. But no, I love it. I think her story, and that's why I was glad you picked it, because talking about a strong female character, I mean, Ripley is one of the blueprints for strong female characters from movies since the 80s, right? Like, if you think of like iconic, strong female characters, Ripley almost always comes up in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Not only are you, because she was kind of in the first one, she was more of a final girl, right? Like, if you go with that kind of horror trope, she was the final girl, right? She was the Laurie Strode of Alien. And in this one, she was like, I'm going to take the fight to it. I mean, she literally duct tapes a flamethrower to a pulse rifle and straps a bunch of grenades to herself and goes down there like, no, I'm getting my kid back. Right. So they took that mother instinct where, you know, because they kind of prefaced that in the extended version. And I'm glad they did, because it kind of gives more depth to her character of she's so focused on her daughter. They cut all that out. And I'm glad they brought it. I'm glad the special edition brings it back, because it sees that, like, I promised her I'd be home, and your daughter died in her 60s with grandkids. So they don't even let her really process that loss. Because for her, it hasn't been 57 years. It's been a couple, right? Like, I'm going to be home. I should be home in no time for your birthday. That's in the first Alien, right? So, and we kind of didn't talk about that she's in space for 57 years. Sorry, guys. We just kind of rambled. But she's asleep for 57
she's an
years.
old lady at this point, but she just, you know, she didn't age because she was in the little pod. So
she's frozen. I know. And Burke's like, hey, kiddo. I'm like, dude, she's like 60 years older than
That's
you.
what I said. I said, she's like, what's she now, in her freaking 80s? Like,
I mean, she was probably 30 when she went in. So, yeah, she's like pushing 90. It was funny that Aaron pointed out, because she's watched Stranger Things so many times. Paul Reiser's character in Stranger Things, that's how he talks to Eleven, too. He's like, hey, kiddo.
Okay.
Hey, kiddo. Like,
of course.
Which is funny. Which, that's actually a kid, though, so it makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
I say kiddo too, though, so I really can't say much. But I actually say it's children, not like a 90-year-old woman. Anyway, but yeah, her character development, I think, is spot on in this one versus other films in the franchise that kind of, they're just going off the fact that it's Ripley. This one, though, you get to see her become that iconic, just kind of awesome character.
Yeah. I liked the writing in this. I thought the one-liners were appropriate because of who was saying them. Because, I mean, if you think about it, if you've ever met like a group of military dudes, they're ridiculous when they're together. It's like just broing out, you know? Like it's and they say stupid crap. So like I thought that was appropriate, and the ones that needed to be serious were, I don't know, I just really liked it. So what do you think?
I don't know. I was thinking, I mean, it's just really hard to find fault in this story. I mean, I would go with 25. It's kind of going to have the same kind of, it's got a lot of nostalgia factor to it. It's aliens. You know what I mean? It's aliens. That's all you really got to say. It's aliens. But it is written well.
I was going to say but it is written well. It's not like we're just giving it just because it's nostalgic. It's I just because something's nostalgic to me doesn't mean that it's written well. Because I have a lot of things I like.
That's true. Well. This one is one of them. It's James Cameron. It's done well.
Yeah.
The story, they added so much depth to what Ridley Scott did in Alien. Like, you gave us a whole world. The only little thing I would knock is that they made a comment about the settlers being on that planet for 20 years. It took you 20 years to find the derelict. Like, Ripley's crew found it in like 5 minutes. What? It makes no sense. If you just said 5 years, okay.
And they also said it had a beacon, honed in on its beacon. So
maybe Ripley turned that off when they were on the ship. I don't know. But yeah, like that part I thought was kind of weird. Like, you've been there 20 years and never found this? What?
Maybe it was because they were so focused on building the complex itself, because the complex was so big.
Yeah.
And getting it to where it would be breathable for them to live on it.
It could have been. Now, yeah, that could have been some more things brought out. I did also like another little comment about watching the special edition, that if you've never seen it, Newt's parents go out to find that, but they make a comment when they call in to ask if they find they can keep it, because someone from corporate said they had to go there. And Ripley comments on it later that it was Paul Reiser's character, it was Burke, who sent them out there after her telling them what it was. So it shows just how horrible of a person he really is. She told you there's an alien race out there that murdered my entire crew.
Yeah.
He sent a survey team to go look at it, to try to get money. That's all he wanted, was money.
And was not remorseful.
He didn't care at all.
A little bit.
He tried to kill them. Like, he cared not at all. So it showed even in the 80s, and it's still the same now, how greed rules all emotions. He was like the most greedy person. So I'm good with a 25 on this. I think especially watching the special edition, you get so much more depth of the story that I think it needs. Well, it stands without it, but it really helps it.
Yeah. I like it better with the special edition. I'll watch the extra 20 minutes every time.
It's worth it. So. I say it's worth it. It's 17 extra minutes. I think it's 134 to 155. So it's 17, 18 extra minutes, something like that. Totally worth it. Every bit worth it. 100%. All right. So the FX design element. So visual effects elements that connect to the narrative, set design, overall character design, gore, and practical versus digital effects. That's a 25.
I mean,
the sets
I'm not
going to
argue with you.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
I like the Hive. I thought the Hive was so well done.
They were great. The Queen looks awesome. The aliens, there's a couple scenes where they're just like falling out of the ceiling, and they're obviously probably just rubber like aliens.
Yeah.
And it's shot kind of weird, but there's no way to really do that because they're just like stiff arm falling out of the ceiling. But how else are you going to do that? There's like 100 of them. You know what I mean? So to go back pre-digital effects and make that many creatures swarming you at one time, you know? So like it has like a different, and that's what kind of lends to the horror aspect of it. It's more like a zombie film versus how the first one was like Dracula, right? How it's one bad guy coming after you. Or like the first one was like Jason or Michael Myers, right? There's one slasher type killer. Now there's like 100 of them. And they're all as badass as that first one. But there's 100 of them. So it's like,
Yeah,
crap.
so you're screwed because there's
Yeah.
only, like, a
Yeah.
handful of you all.
The
So
one you could get away from and kind of hide from. Now it's like we're just gonna, and they kind of showed early on when Marines are walking through the base how they just like killed one of their own or spit on the building until they melted their way in, because why not?
yeah.
And that's they kind of show it in other movies too and other media for this, that they're smart enough that they will kill one of their own to melt through something. They just punch them with their little mouth teeth things until they bleed through holes, and they use like their own other drones to build through. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, they adapt very quickly.
Yeah.
I like that, aspect of the xenomorph that they've created.
Well, you get more when you read like the comics and the books and stuff, especially when you get into like the Predator alien stuff. The queen has like just like an ant or a bee. She has like a pheromone telepathic kind of bond with
Yeah.
them, because they're definitely a hive mind. So she can
Yeah.
like tell them, hey, like when the scene with the guns, which I'm glad they re-added because it shows them adapt. Like, because they're like, oh, we won. No, they just realized. Ripley says it. No, they're gonna find another way. Like the guns made them back
Yeah,
up.
and they did.
Yeah,
I noted that when they're looking at that little radar thing to see,
Yeah.
like, they're coming in, they should be, like, in the room with us, and then she, like, looks up, and you're like, "Oh, shit, they're in the
Yeah.
ceiling."
yeah,
And he, like, opens it up just a little bit, and you see him, like, all running towards the thing. I was like, "Oh my god."
yeah,
Because
yeah. No, I'm like, oh, we're all gonna die. That's it. You're dead. And then freaking Paul Reiser's character Burke's like running through the back door and trying to lock it. What a piece of garbage.
like, he's gonna survive.
I know Aaron said
Shut your
they have the
mouth.
guns. What do you think you're gonna do? You can't even fly the ship. You're like a corporate stooge. Like, what are you gonna do?
It's so true, though.
So I'm saying, like, you're not like,
He's
at
the
least
worst.
Ripley's a pilot, sorta. She could fly that plane if she had to. He can't do
Yeah.
anything without like Bishop. He'd have been in trouble.
Right?
Like, hey, dog, you locked them all in there, and they all died. And let's say you survived. How do you plan on getting off this planet?
You're not. You're just gonna die there.
You're gonna starve to death in this room you locked yourself into for 17 days. You turd. Anyway. So yeah, that's a good one. I think that's a strong one. Like I said, they all look great. The biomechanic stuff in the hive looks awesome. You know, it looks like something alien, which I think is really cool. And if they
Yeah.
built that, it was awesome. The queen, 15 meters tall and is controlled by 16 dudes, but looks really good. There's a couple of cheesy
It
things.
does.
Her hand looks kind of weird, but like, what do you expect to have with something that big in the 80s? I think it looks really good for the time period to not be CG. You know what I mean? Like now it would look crazy because it'd be CG. It would look real, strange. All of her fingers would be articulated, but that was built. So I'm impressed with that. All right, so moving on, the visual technical element. So the overall aesthetic of the film is pleasing to the eye, lighting, creative camera shots, and movement and lens selection. I really like this too. Like I think some of the shots are great. Like those creepy shots of Bishop shimmying through that tunnel.
Yeah, that was cool.
Were really cool, and it made me feel a little claustrophobic. Like the fact that he's like shoulder crawling through this tunnel, and I'm like, dude, that's ugh.
And that's far. He had to do that for a long distance.
Yeah, that
I know
tunnel
he's
was
an android,
so
but still.
small. I know, like so small.
He's like, I can do it. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
I'll
we
do
know
it.
you can do it.
Like, you're not a person. Okay. No way. I would never do that, but it was cool. I like that shot.
It would take you a million years to get there.
First off, I'm not fitting my big ass in that too. We're dead. Like, we're dead. I'm like, who's going? Not me.
I would just start crying halfway through and be like, I can't do this.
Oh, dude, I would get in there and be like, nope. Dude, could you imagine how big of a hole they'd have to cut just to put me in there? Like, that hole was little, and he, like, crams in there. No way. There's no way. No way.
That's
I don't even
funny.
fit in the MRI machine. I have to, like, bring my shoulders
Oh,
in
no,
and suck
that's
it in.
terrible.
I couldn't imagine going in that tube that's, like, the size of a basketball or something. No, I'm good. No. No. I've met Lance Henderson. He's very frail. He's a small man. He's very skinny. I'm good. The thought of that makes me want to die. But that's just one. Like some of the really cool flyover shots, some of the technical stuff that looks really just looks good. It ties to the previous Alien. It keeps everything together. It has that gritty, dark, almost like Star Wars space vibe, like, where everything looks kind of dirty. Even though it's in the future, and it's high tech. It's used. It's not like
It's
how
like weathered.
yeah, like how Star Trek, everything's all pristine and beautiful and awesome. Because that's
Yeah.
not how the human race would do anything ever. Because we're horrid.
No.
So it's like
It would look more like the Klingons take care of things.
exactly like I'm saying. Like that's why I've always been. Everybody's like, "Well, Star Trek is like in the future." Yeah, it's not ever going to happen. Like this kind of future, this is us.
We're still
Corporations,
dirty.
like aliens' future is us if we ever go to space.
If you remember the scene where Gorman and Burke are walking towards her little apartment, and like the hallways are even just full of trash.
Yeah, just filthy and gross because we're
it's
horrid
just
and
like,
we don't care.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like how many times have I seen a student drop something and then a kid kick it? I'm like, why can't you just freaking pick it up and throw it away? And they're like, it's not mine. I'm like,
I didn't drop that. I didn't ask you if you dropped it. I said pick it up. What is wrong with you? Yeah, same thing. Yeah. So I'm saying that's our future right there. Just go ahead and do it. Like that's why I tell Nate all the time. I'm like, dude, Star Trek is improbable because it's too pristine and nice.
Right.
It's just not going to happen.
No, it's not.
If we ever go to space, it'll be like in this movie. Star Wars, we're never going to get that, but it'll be like this.
We'll be a mixture of Klingon and Ferengi because we're all obsessed with money.
Yeah, that's all we care about. Just like this movie. Like,
yeah,
we literally went to space to try to bring back an acid-blooded murder machine.
Right? I know. I'm like, you freaking worthless. Like you're ever going to tame one of those.
Yeah. It's not going to be your pet, bro. What did they think was going to happen? Like, you know what I mean? Like that thing's whole goal is to make more and eat you.
Yeah.
That's it. Like after they keep you alive long enough to let one eat you from the inside out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then burst up out your chest. And then your body gets broken down back into the hive. No, man, we're good. So yeah, no, I thought it was great. Back to the actual topic here. A lot of the shots are very pleasing. I think the lighting is dark and dreary, and it really adds to this. Not like they didn't use it as well as I think they did in Alien. Alien, the shadows are really used to like you barely see the creature, and it's like holy crap. And then when you finally see it stand up, it's like that whole like I don't know, like the first time you see Frankenstein, right? It's like that, like, holy crap. Because the camera pans up and you have that, like, oh, the thing's giant. You don't get that as much in this movie because it has more, it leans more towards the action than it does the horror, right? It's that more of a thriller. But it does give a good sense of just dinge, right? Like,
yeah,
this is the future. We're super technological, but we still only care about money. They're like, well, I mean, you blew up $1 million. $1 million ship, which to me is funny because in the 80s we thought that ship that was a big number. Like our fighter jets cost more than that now. Could imagine a ship that goes to space. This is a $28 billion ship. Like, okay, you know what I mean? Like that's all they cared about. And then the fact they let her off for destroying that, I was kind of shocked. But yeah, so like I said, I think it looked good. I think the aesthetic is very imposing. You get it's light when it needs to be, dark when it doesn't. So I dig it. I like the futuristic aspect of it.
Yeah, and even though I don't really like strobe light type scenes, I thought the ones that they did do were well used.
Yeah. So what do you think? Like
it hurts my eyeballs when I'm watching something and it's constant flashing lights. But they were all well used and they were used for a purpose. So I
and they weren't really bright, I don't think. It wasn't like white strobe. It was like yellow or the reds. And they were more warmer colors, so it didn't bother us as much. I think when it's the cooler colors, like that white light or those blue lights, it's like, oh, it hurts my face.
Yeah.
But a couple of them, they were red. And then you got the yellow strobe whenever she was around the loader, how it just spun. That was the only light you saw. And I thought that was really cool, I thought. To use those pieces that you're supposed to have to kind of, you know, as the only light source. And it was kind of dark and dreary, which I liked. And how in some scenes, like the only light you got to see was from the flamethrower. Everything else was real dark. And that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. That was cool.
So I like that. I was kind of a fan. So what do you think, like a 20 maybe?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. I think they could have done a little bit better with some of the alien scenes. Could have been a little darker, a little more like, oh, look at this. But yeah, I'm just trying not to give it 100, to be honest. 24. All right, so here's your favorite element. What about the sound element?
I think this is one of the best elements in the whole movie, actually, because it this one is it's very similar to Alien because a lot of it's atmospheric sounds,
Yeah.
which I like, but the xenomorph sounds are creepy and well done, like the hissing and the just the sounds in general that they make, or like as they move.
Yeah. It's modified baboon
Those
sounds.
Is that what that is? I was
Yeah.
going to ask you if you knew what it
Yeah. It's
was. That's
baboons.
really interesting. I'll have to tell Johnny that because I was wondering that while I was watching the movie last night because I try to figure out like what kind of sounds that they make because I mean it's cool how they do a sound stage anyway. To me,
Yeah.
like I've always found that very interesting. But like to use different sounds to create, it's just really neat. But the ambient space sounds and the scoring stays the same, and then they have that, like, that triumphant type atmospheric, like, sound, like, when she's fighting the
Yeah.
queen, and it does it a couple of times. I love that. Like, if you played that randomly, I would know exactly what movie it was from. Like, that's, like, how memorable it is for me. And
Well, that's cool.
then the atmospheric sounds from LV-426 are just fitting to the movie in general. Like, just the space, like, the sounds, like, the heavy wind sounds with like I guess it's like I don't know if it's electricity or if it's just like actual like lightning, which I guess I know that's the same almost,
Yeah. I think in
like
that
it's an
one,
electrical charge.
it's hard to tell because they're inside that like thing that makes the atmosphere. So it could be either one.
Yeah. So I
Could be like a
like
static
that.
electricity kind of thing. Had that
Yeah.
Star Wars vibe when they kill the Emperor, like that kind of like lightning everywhere coming from it, like everything's
Yeah.
blowing up. Yeah. Same effect, I think.
And the face hugger scene where it's like skittering around and you can hear it clicking around
Yeah.
on the tile floor and it's gross. So like but I don't know. I just thought it was really well done. They were very articulate with the sound and the music to it.
Yeah.
So
I
it
liked it.
scores high for me.
I liked it. It was done by James Horner. Apparently, him and Cameron met early in their careers because they both worked for Roger Corman, which he's like a B movie king back in the day. They both worked for him early, but this was their first time ever working together on something, which is funny. It was their first collaboration, but apparently Horner called it a nightmare because he arrived in London to compose, expecting a 6-week schedule, but there was nothing for him to score because Cameron was not done. He was still filming and editing scenes. He did the whole score in 3 weeks.
Oh wow.
Start to finish. He was supposed to have 6. Cameron went over schedule, but he was all, and the producers would not give him any more time. They were like, "Nah, man, like this has to be done."
He was over schedule because his crew didn't want to work.
Yeah, apparently his crew sucked. Yeah.
So
I think it's funny that James Cameron is such like a big director and he's never been back there. And people are always talking about how awesome it is to film in Pinewood Studios. And he's like, nah, you bastards can live here forever, you miserable pieces of shit. Like he hates them. Like he's never been back.
well, when you make someone's life miserable for kind of sad reasons, like unless he did something like directly to you to be like super hateful, like I don't understand why you would be that childish.
Yeah, especially when he
That
even tried to show them like Terminator and they wouldn't come.
yeah,
Like, hey,
like you're just
I get it.
being ridiculous.
Yeah, like I get it. You guys don't think like I can do this. Here, come watch my first movie, my first big movie, and you can judge based on what you see. And they're like, nah, because they were just so fiercely loyal to Ridley Scott, which I get because it's Ridley Scott, but still,
That doesn't mean you need
turds.
to make someone's life miserable along with all the cast and everything. I don't know.
I
That
agree.
seems kind of shitty to me.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible. But no, I think he did a good job of the sounds. I agree. I think like the power loader moving sound, you get those cool like zzz, 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 zzz sounds, and there's just like because I think a lot of times we talk about the score, but we don't always get into like sound effects. Like we try to, but I think this one has some really good ones, like you said, like the Queen movement sounds and those kind of gross, just kind of I don't know.
The movements of
I don't want to say sucking sounds, but just gross sounds of her egg sack and all that stuff. And the cool sounds when they open, where they did a good job of not making it sound like robotic. Like no, it's like there's air coming out, but it's like weird when the eggs open, and just all the sounds. Like even when you like pay attention to the bishop crawling in the tube scene, even the score during those shots is claustrophobic. You're like, oh god, that's such a small space.
Yeah.
So it's
And
interesting.
the sound of like the big vent fan where Ridley goes in where Newt has been staying, and you can hear it in and it like cuts out the light, so it's like almost like a strobe light too, but it's just like the absence of it when the fan blades are moving. I thought that was a cool scene too. It's like you're in a vent, so it sounds like a vent.
Yeah, it was cool.
Mm-hmm. But to have only 3 weeks, he did an amazing job. So
I think the whole thing, everything was good from start to finish. Yeah, I really don't have. There's so many things you could say about this movie. There's so many interesting things. I think but I think James Cameron did such a good job. Like how apparently Sigourney Weaver never wanted to make a sequel,
okay.
and when they did bring him on to do it, so apparently I was just reading this thing. He said, "This is funny." He had especially centered his story and screenplay around the character of Ellen Ripley from Alien, so he was dismayed to learn that not only had Sigourney Weaver never signed on for a sequel, she'd not even been contacted yet to reprise her role. And when he contacted her himself and gave her the script, she showed interest, but the studio objected against her increased salary demands because, she'd become bankable at that point. I mean, it's Ellen Ripley. She'd been in a bunch of stuff around it since Alien. So the difficulties surrounding her contract negotiations were such that Cameron and Gillian heard if the deal had not done by the time they got back for their honeymoon, they were out.
Interesting.
So apparently he ended up calling Arnold Schwarzenegger's agent and tried to find and basically used him to tell her that he was going to make it without her. It's really weird. Like the whole thing. So apparently I was reading this. This is crazy. What does it say here? He called his agent for an informal chat and informed him that thanks to his newfound standing in Hollywood following The Terminator, he was planning on making the film entirely his own by writing Ripley out. As Cameron anticipated, Schwarzenegger's agent immediately relayed the information to his colleague representing Weaver at ICM, who in turn contacted 20th Century Fox, head of production. Both men determined that under no circumstance whatsoever would Ripley be written out. They wasted no time in sealing her deal. That's hilarious. So he basically bluffed her into the movie.
Oh my gosh.
Also, I'm reading so many funny things I had not read. I was just doing a little bit more like trivia on the movie. This one, apparently Paul Reiser's sister physically struck him because his character was so contemptible.
I mean, he was pretty wretched. At least I thought he was. I was like yelling at him the whole time. Like, you suck.
I agree. It was great. But another thing I wanted to get back on the set design I forgot to mention. The armorer made 3 sets of armor for each person, but allowed them, James Cameron wanted them to customize it themselves. So a lot of the things written on there were just things they did, like how Hudson says Louise on it, because that was Bill Paxton's actual wife's name. So like they got to write all the things they wanted themselves, like an actual like Vietnam vet. Because of course all these war movies at this time frame were always commentaries on Vietnam, right?
Yeah.
And of course, Al Pone, the actor, he was actually in Vietnam. So he had like true experience with the film. Of course, they all die, unfortunately. I forgot to do the roll call of death. Here we're an hour and 21 minutes in. Nearly everyone dies in this movie, guys, except for Ripley and Hicks and Newt. And that's it.
And technically, what's his name? Bishop, he's not really technically dead. He's just...
I mean, he's gone.
Oh, she has him wrapped up in the thing at the end. He can be assembled back together.
Did I miss that? I guess I missed that. I thought that was...
Yeah, she puts him in like a pod at the end, and he has like all this stuff attached to him. Like,
oh, that's right, because they're on the
stuff.
main ship already after she throws the Queen Alien out. Yeah. So I guess Bishop too.
She was able to kind of like put him in stasis so that he doesn't, I guess, malfunction and completely die.
I guess that was another cool thing too, is you got to see her like come back to liking androids, sorta, but not really.
Yeah,
because they commented again on Alien 3 whenever the human version of his character is in there. It's weird. The whole thing is weird. But yep, great movie. Love it. I suggest everyone go and watch it. Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
Okay, what was our score?
Oh, yeah. Well, what number did you want to give the score? 25?
Yeah, I wanted to give it a 25.
95.
Sweet.
Sorry.
I think it's deserving
I
of
got
that.
on a tangent there, didn't I? My bad, folks.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the 5 of you
We're
that
back,
listen
though.
to this are like this. I like to go on tangents. Sorry. But yeah, I love this movie. Everyone should love this movie. Again, I think Alien itself is probably the greatest space horror movie of all time, right? Like, people say Thing, but like, the Thing doesn't happen in space, so it's not a space horror movie. It involves something from space that takes place on Earth, dog. So,
Yeah.
get on my face with that. Alien takes place fully in space, so suck it. It's the best. It wins.
It wins.
So yeah, all right. Quick shout out to our patrons. Same as last week, right? We have any new patrons?
Mm-hmm. Not this time, no.
Jeez, guys, step your game up. God, it's a dollar. Jeez. So special thanks out to my little brother, Blade Holland, my buddy Zach Merritt. Thank you again for the support. We appreciate it. I think that's pretty awesome. The rest of you slackers, step your game up. God, I'm trying to be like Burke, just have all this money.
Yeah,
I mean, all these $1
Except we
donations.
won't do evil. We won't do evil with it.
No, we'll just cover Audible subscriptions and such, whatnot.
Yeah, I know, right?
I gotta buy new stickers because stupid printer made the QR code not work.
It's lame.
I know, it was very sad. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. Aliens, rather, 95. Fully deserving. Like I said, great movie. Yeah. You want to tell me where they can find us, Jenny?
I sure can. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Horror in the Halls. You can also follow Jenny_Dreadfuls on Instagram. You can email us at horrorinthehalls@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.
You guys, let us know what you think. And again, we have Patreon. We have merch. All those links will be in the show notes. You can also find us on our socials. So get in there, get a coffee cup, get a t-shirt, get a hoodie. Let us know. Support us. Show off the swag. And yeah, guys.
Yes.
That's going to be the bell. We're going to get out of here. See you next time.
Bye.